Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 206. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You get notified when we go live, so you join in on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching, listening to the show, if you could drop a follow, subscription, whatever it may be, it does seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, as of recording, Elimination Chamber happens. So we're going to be jumping into Elimination Chamber for topic one, thoughts on the show, results, all the rundown, what's going on for Mania, all that fun stuff. So yeah, very bright and early for me, 5 a.m., jumping into the show. Elimination Chamber had 5 matches going on, including the kickoff, I believe. And then we did get a Grayson Waller effect. So matches we had the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships in the kickoff. Kabuki Warriors going against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. We had the Women's Elimination Chamber. We had the Undisputed Tag Team titles for the gentlemen with Judgment Day against New Catch Republic. We had the Grayson Waller effect, as I talked about. We had the Men's Elimination Chamber, and then we had the Women's Championship with Rhea going against Nia Jax. And Papa Griff put his thoughts in there. And I'm going to kind of agree just from a quick reading of the first sentence. But this was a solid show. I had a good time with it. I think, obviously, all the matches had their time to breathe. The chambers were lengthy, which not lengthy in a bad way, but like had their time. Didn't feel like anything was rushed. All 5 matches got their time, and they were able to do what they needed to do. And it went pretty flawlessly. There weren't any big mistakes. We'll talk about one in the tag match that, not a mistake, but an injury potential. I will say, with the Women's Elimination Chamber, as I guess we'll just jump into that, even though kickoff show, I know. The beginning of it felt a little slow and felt a little awkward. They kept bringing up like the temperature and the humidity, so I was a little concerned. Maybe ropes, people were going to slip and stuff like that. But like I said, for the rest of the night, everything was very flawless and went off without a hitch, so that's great. And it seems like the crowd was really into it. Obviously, they don't get these kind of shows all that often, so great to hear the reception for the home country people, and then obviously the superstars in general. So let's jump on into it. We'll go to the kickoff. We'll talk about the tag match just really, really briefly. This was added, I think, last minute. Maybe last night is when they officially announced it. Kabuki Warriors did retain. I wasn't sure if there was going to be some shenanigans in play with the Dakota or Bailey at all, but no, this was just run-of-the-mill. We're going to get them out there. We're going to give Indy her moment, which I did appreciate that they were able to do that for her. Get them out there. They did a fine job. I think this helps just, put Indy and Candice more in the front and center in the limelight. We need to build up that tag division and to put actual teams that have been together for a while, get them going, momentum, reps, practice, whatever you want to call it, and just get them in front of people and give them time. I think this was a step in the right direction. I get it. It's a kickoff show. Not everybody's going to check that out, especially once again with the time difference here, at least for, a lot of people. Everybody had a time difference, but I know for the U.S. audience, it was a bit rough. But happy I caught this one. Like I said, happy Indy got her moment there, and glad they included it in here as well. So we jump to the Women's Elimination Chamber. Participants we had were, you're not going to tell me. There we go. Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton. So Becky overall would win this, so we were kind of on that predictable route with the whole press conference for Mania and the strongest build here. I would say Liv was probably the second contender in terms of, she did finish second here, but in terms of a believable storyline with her revenge tour, which we'll talk about as we get into the match. But yeah, it was kind of run-of-the-mill, obviously predictable, or what am I trying to say? Nothing shocking in the result here, but I think the ladies crushed it. I thought they all did a great job. I thought it was a little bit rough at the beginning with Becky and Naomi. Nothing of their fault. It just seemed like some things didn't really connect, or the speed wasn't there, the flow for whatever reason. But as the participants kind of got into the match, more and more and more, it escalated. Things went very well. I think there was only one sunset powerbomb thing that Naomi did. She didn't catch all of it, but everybody was safe. Everybody was fine. It was good. Yeah, Papa Griff says it worked well, even though it was 5 faces and 1 heel. Pretty good spots. Definitely agree with that. There was one spot where Raquel was getting pinned by 3 participants at one time, and she kicked out, and I know Australia audience was like, bullshit, and started chanting that. I was like, yeah, that's fair. That one was probably the only, like, too much, like, just having 3 individuals to kick out of, and it wasn't like a strong kick out. So that one, not super great. But other than that, yeah, it went fine. I saw a lot of flack online. Obviously, it's the internet. Everybody's got an opinion and wants to toss it out there, and especially in a negative connotation, about Naomi, how her return has been. I don't think this is a bad step for Naomi. Obviously, she was the first one out, but I don't think this is like, oh, she's dead, oh, she's getting buried, or she's not getting the push, etc., etc. I don't think it's the end of the world. Obviously, she just returned at the Rumble. She was towards the final group there. Being involved in this keeps her in the forefront of like that main event picture around the title. Yes, she didn't come out the victor here or last longer, but it's one of those things where, at least what we've seen with the Triple H regime, a lot of things are being handled differently in terms of plans, and they have a plan going forward of what they want to do with Mania. So I don't know personally where Naomi fits right now, but I think she'll be fine. Once we kind of get over this Mania hump, we can focus more on her with, does she go against Bayley? If Io retains, get that going there. So a little shocking she left so early, but I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. I did appreciate the kind of like taking advantage. I think Liv was the one who pinned her there. No, it was Tiffany. Sorry, Tiffany got Naomi out. Liv towards the end taking care of Bianca, with Bianca hitting the kiss of death on Becky, and then the surprise roll-up, get that. Then Liv turns around for the finish of Becky hitting the manhandle slam. Thought that was good. Tiffany was over, and she did a phenomenal job. And I'll say this, like, she was one with the 2.0 era. When I first saw her character, not watching week to week, I was like, oh, this is the dumbest thing ever, the whole little daddy's little rich girl thing. And since her return from, I don't know if it was ACL, whatever injury she did have, since she's come back from that maybe a year and a half ago, she's been killing it. Obviously, she had the NXT title run. Before that was, was it the Deadline? Oh, Iron Survivor. I think that was where she got her shot at. I don't recall. But coming back, getting the title, going against Becky, doing that program, and then closing out her time in NXT to come to the main roster here. She's capitalized on her time. She's done it awesome. Obviously, Australia was behind her there. Get a little bit of heat on Liv, maybe not intentional, when Tiffany was eliminated. But yeah, she did a great job. Excited to see what is next for her. I don't know if it's going to be Bianca. We kind of were thinking Jade was going to go that route, but then Jade was not in the chamber here. Maybe Raquel was kind of shoehorned in there for reasons. I don't know. But glad to see Raquel back too, and kind of put back in this picture, and not just like return to obscurity where it's like, I'm here. We'll try and figure something out. So yeah, that was good. Now, speaking on Liv, so like I said, she's kind of like the second option I would have gone here of like, yeah, that makes sense. She's the last one to beat Rhea. Rhea and her were tag team champions. You have the history there, and Rhea was the one who allegedly took her out of action. We, wove it into the storyline where Rhea could take her out with the elbow injury. So it would have made sense, like, obviously not the build they were telling with the press conference and stuff, but I would have been like, oh yeah, I get it. Check the box, let's go. I'm curious if they're going to turn Liv heel here. Since she returned at the Rumble, she had this whole cry about it on her attire, like t-shirt type thing. So I don't know if she's just going that route or like it doesn't matter what the crowd says, I'm here for my agenda type deal. Obviously, she's doing a little pouty cry faces here and there at the Chamber, and I don't want to say ruthless, but had a little bit more of an aggressive side. So interested if that's the route they're going to go with her. I don't know if that's what I want, but it is what it is. As long as she's involved, keep more people or elevate more people, that's good. So I'm intrigued to see how that continues here. She's on Raw and Naomi's on SmackDown, so I don't know if they would have a program. Not that that's the end of the world. They're like, nope, you can't feud with anybody on the opposite show, especially towards Mania season. So we'll have to see what comes out of that as we go forward. So yeah, ladies did great. Becky won there. Tag team title. This one I think was might have been my favorite match. I thought the ladies absolutely crushed it, but this one is like right up there with it. The tag titles between Judgment Day and then the newly named New Catch Republic of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I thought they did phenomenal. Did a great job of just boom, 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 one thing after another. I thought Dunn and Bate looked really well together, and this is another instance of like put them in the forefront, get people looking at them being like, oh, these are actually people I should pay attention to. White gear, and it's really hot. Not smart for Bate. Man, that man was sweating up a storm. But once again, no mistakes that I noticed, or like any botches with the heat and stuff like that. They did a phenomenal job. A very exciting, fast-paced match. If Damian and Balor keep the titles towards Mania, which it kind of seems like will be the case. I know we talked a few weeks ago about a tag team showcase match without the titles involved. I wonder if we get something where it's a multi-team tag team match between these guys. Do you do a rematch between these two teams? Do you throw DIY in there? If we want to get another heel team in there, I don't know. You kind of got the Authors of Pain Street Profits thing going. I don't know. You could even just do triple threat. But yeah, they did a great job. I don't know if Finn actually broke his thumb. Something was going on, dislocation, break, or he was just selling like a madman. The way he was holding that thumb at the end of that coup de grace and after that pin makes me think it was legit, but that's part of the art. Who knows? He was definitely bleeding out of there, and boy was he ginger with it when he was picking up his titles and stuff like that. So I don't know. I hope he's okay. I know, hope he's okay. I hope it's fine. We'll have to see. Oh yes, R-Truth and the freaking Miz. Yes, Awesome Truth. Yeah, that's true. Judgment Day just DIY and no catch for Truth's heart. Yes. No, we got to get Awesome Truth in there. That seems to be the story they're building too, which I don't know how I feel about that. Not anything against Miz or anything against Truth. It's just I liked this match a lot more than I can visualize a Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth type thing. It's like, it's not my style. Not that it will be a bad match, just is what it is. So then we went to the Grayson Waller effect. Business as usual here, I guess. Promo. So big things we took out of this. One, Seth is now cleared for action. So does this allude to the briefcase? Is Damian going to cash in? I thought that would have been more likely if they were to lose the tag titles. Then he would be like, I don't have this burden. I can now steal that from him. We could go from there and figure out whatever we need to figure out. But also we have the Elimination Chamber thing, which I'll talk about, I guess, real quickly. Drew won. Shocker. Another one that was predictable, right? Or at least we knew where it was going. As it was one Raw superstar against 5 SmackDown superstars. You could craft a story around Drew and around Priest. We saw them have tensions before around War Games time, but I think that would be really tough to do in such a short window. Right now it's heel. Obviously Judgment Day's been beating up Truth. People love Truth. can you swing Damian to a face in a 40-day period? You could. Just a little, a tough hill to climb. So I don't know what this will mean for Damian and the briefcase. It might still be a post-Mania thing. We'll have to obviously watch and see. But, sorry, long story short, first thing we learned, Seth cleared for competition. Cool, sweet, great. 2, Cody wants to fight The Rock, one-on-one at any point. Cool. Seth kind of butts in, kind of alludes to the tag theme thing. All right, cool. We're getting more confirmation-ish of the whole WrestleMania video package. Night 1's going to be a tag match. Okay. 3, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are breaking up? Question mark? I don't know. Austin Theory kind of butt in a little too much, I felt, on Grayson's stuff. And then, obviously, Austin was getting attacked, and Waller was like, yeah, backed off from the situation. I don't know if that's the right move. I kind of like them both together. Not that, obviously, they can't do their stuff on their own, but that was a little odd. That was a little weird. Another, hey, good for you. Glad Grayson got his moment and was over there. So, yeah, some fun things we learned from the show. Then we head into the men's elimination chamber. Like I talked about already, Drew emerged victorious. He was against, where are we? He was against Randy Orton, LA Knight, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, and Logan Paul. I don't know. This one I wasn't feeling all that much. I don't know what it was for me. If it was just my anticipation of Drew winning, so it wasn't a lot going on, or just something about the pacing and the movesets just didn't click with me for some reason on this night. Everybody seemed to get a good reception. Well, good for their respective parts. Lashley, for me, I don't know. Like, he's impressive. I don't get any enjoyment out of him or his character. There's nothing that draws me in there. So to that, I was like, He speared Logan Paul through a pod. That was cool. I was a little concerned about an injury because I know that's how Lashley got knocked out. I think he was in the pod and somebody speared somebody. I don't remember. And then he had to leave the match early. But we did get 2 interruption spots. Not really. But we kind of did the same thing we did in last year's Elimination Chamber. I think it was last year. Where Superstar gets injured, right? So this year's Bobby Lashley. Referees come in and they're helping him out. Last year was Montez Ford. Got helped out. Cage doors open. Someone comes in. AJ Styles comes in here. Beats up LA Knight. The year prior, Logan Paul comes in. Beats up Seth Rollins. Sets up their Mania match. We kind of just did a copy-paste here with the same thing. AJ flew however many hours he did just to do this beat-up. Why he did this now makes 0 sense to me. I thought when we saw on SmackDown AJ versus Drew, whatever that qualifier was, where LA Knight's on commentary, I thought obviously LA Knight kind of cost him or messed him up in that match. LA Knight versus Ivar, I think it was. When they're doing it, AJ's going to interfere there. We can build from there. I don't know why AJ decided to wait until now. Whatever. And yeah, it was just a copy and paste the last year's or whenever that Montez Ford one was with Logan Paul and Seth. So that was like, yeah. And then they did not the same thing, but it did a very similar thing with Logan Paul. Cage is wide open. He's chilling there dead, selling. And then has the knucks from when he when he did get eliminated from Orton, goes pop and decks Orton, and Drew just goes bing and pins him, being a hypocrite again and taking advantage of these situations. So we get a lot of Mania build. You're gonna get LA Knight versus Styles. You're gonna get Orton versus Logan Paul. Owens is around. Owens was very weird tonight too. I wasn't sure if he was turning heel. He kind of taunted Orton. He taunted Lashley. He kind of was like a pit bull in a moment and in his pod. Very weird. He seemed to be going over the top. So I don't know what's going on there. I saw one thing on X talking about like, oh, it's going to be a multi-man for the U.S. title. Maybe. I mean, we talked about it hypothetically a few weeks ago with our Mania predictions. 13 matches. If you do a lot of singles matches, you're going to either A, have a lot more matches with less time, or, you're not going to be able to book it. So maybe you throw all these guys in a multi-man. I mean, at least with the participants that I just listed, Paul, Owens, Knight, and Styles, that's 4 SmackDown guys, so you can have them bicker at each other for 4 weeks. I don't think you would throw Lashley in there unless you do Lashley and Cross. Maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. And then our main event, we had Rhea going against Nia Jax. Rhea did retain in her home country, thank God, for the women's world title. This was just a big moment for Rhea, obviously. Big celebration for her. It was actually a decent match. I'm kind of surprised. Lady and I, as we were watching it this morning, were a little concerned. We're like, this seems like just a normal Monday Night Raw match. And, like, Nia's been better. But, like, it would have been nicer to have a better opponent for Rhea in this big moment in front of her home country. But actually it went pretty well. It wasn't anything super, flashy or fantastic. They kept it simple, but it worked. Yeah, Rhea got the win. Rhea got to do it in front of her family and her friends, and just happy feelings as we left. Yeah, just big old riptide for the finish there. Yeah. So, overall, I thought it was a good show, solid show, especially for waking up really early this morning. I do want to say shout out to Bronson Reed. I know we were a little concerned off stream and off podcast of like, oh, that sucks. He didn't win his qualifier. He's not going to get the chance to be in the chamber, fight in front of his home country as well. And he's just going to be, away. 2 things. One, I don't know, obviously, because wrestling journalism is all, hoopla. Some's good, some's not, Apparently there was speculation that apparently him and Seth were going to go for the world title and have a match prior to Seth's injury. Cool if he would have got that moment. However, didn't get that moment, didn't participate here. Timing is interesting. He had a wonderful thing happen to him. He was originally going to be in the chamber, he said on X, but circumstances didn't allow him to do that. He is now a father. His wife gave birth early, so he was able to go and focus on time with his family and stuff like that. So congrats to Bronson and his wife on their child. And yeah, as long as he's happy, we're happy. That's what matters. Okay. So yeah, let's see what Papa Griff said. Quick, think it was a pretty good show despite the fact all the results were 100% known. Too bad Pete and Tyler could not go over. I will say, with that match, me enjoying it so much, there were a few times I was like, whoa! I was believing they were going to switch, but obviously it did not. Glad to see AJ for LA and oh boy, I can read. AJ/LA for Mania, pretty likely, and maybe Randy Logan. Where were the Iconics? So I know they were, Billy Kay was at least tweeting or Instagramming a lot of photos prior to the event. I think it was more just like, excited for everybody in Australia, stuff like that. I know Peyton is currently pregnant with child 2. So that could have been reasonings for at least her travel. Obviously, they don't live there, so that would have been a whole rigmarole to get over as well. I hope they come back someday, but if they're just going to be moms and, spend time with the family, that's cool too. So, yeah, that would have been a fun surprise, though. What was the private conversation with Waller and Reigns last night as nothing happened during the effect? Thought they might jump him or something. Yeah, that was weird too. I thought maybe they were setting up a Rock surprise with Dwayne coming out and, shit talking for a little bit, but I'm not sure what that was about either. That is a very fair question. Finn break a thumb or something. Did not look like he landed badly on finish, but looked like something was amiss. For sure, yeah. I tried to focus on, I believe it was his right thumb as he was coming down for the coup de grace, because he really sold it at the end when they got the pin, they got the victory. It seemed like something had happened during that landing. or the pinning situation. I don't know why anything would happen there. But he, like, I don't know if it was just the adrenaline and he was just go, go, go. Like, we need to get this done and, follow that. That after the bell rang, he was able finally to let that emotion out or focus on it or whatever it was. He was very, okay, over the top sounds mean because, like, if he's acting over the top, good. If he's really hurt, then it sounds like I'm, like, oh, he's so emotional. No, that's not what I mean. It was a big reaction. So if he's selling, good for him. It's kind of that comical-esque as well. And he's really selling the done, finger snap type shit. If he's really hurt, then that seemed like he was in a lot of pain. Like I said, he was very ginger with it, like just kind of holding it there. He kind of grabbed the titles, but then switched to his other hand. And obviously, yeah, it was bleeding from, like, top knuckle down. So I don't know. I'd be interested to go back and see the footage slow. There wasn't anything I noticed, like, when Dijak broke his pinky, I think it was against Wesley. No, maybe. Maybe it was Ilya. I think it was Ilya. Whereas Pinky was like, whoop, like over here, like he really made it clear, like, where's the camera? Look at my finger, look at it. Like, there wasn't anything really obscene or super, obvious, that's the word, wow. There wasn't anything super obvious, like positioning of his thumb that made it seem off, so that's why I kind of think it's a dislocation, but I've never broken something either, so I don't know. But yeah, as long as I hope he's okay. Hopefully recovery goes smooth, and whatever it was, he worked through it. Good for him. But all in all, Elimination Chamber was fun, like Papa Griff said. Pretty predictable. And, it's a little concerning if we start thinking about it in a critical standpoint of where, like, if everything's just super predictable and, like, easy to tell where things are going, you're kind of losing that interest, or you could possibly lose that interest from folks, where it's that anything can happen mentality. Obviously, like I said, they are getting to Mania. That's the goal right now, is just, like, putting all the pieces in play. Obviously, they had to do such a big shakeup with the world title picture, that just trying to keep the rest of it in check. You'll probably just be like, for the love of God, just have everything work and go. It might just be because it's that road to WrestleMania stretch where it's like, we have to get from point A to point B, and Elimination Chamber's in this rough spot where it's like just getting there. And I would say probably with the Women's Elimination Chamber, that was the biggest the biggest spoiler, with Becky being the only one in Rhea's face. If you had a combination of people, a group of people, anything like that, I think that would have made it at least a little bit better of, like, suspense for, like, who's gonna challenge Rhea. But to have Becky, granted, a superstar in her own right and, like, the forefront or face of the company as she should be or has earned, it makes sense you want her at the press conference. But yeah, it just is like, well, here it is, this means nothing, you know exactly where we're going. Not a super great move. So they probably could have hid that a little bit better. I think the Drew had the strongest story there because he was the only Raw superstar in that. Like, the other ones are just like, oh, it's gold. Yeah, of course I want a championship. They're not stupid. But nobody here had, like, a super hard driven storyline behind them. It was just, I'm in a qualifier because of Cody finally making his decision. This is thrown together by the GMs. I'm here. Gold is nice. Boom. Drew has that driven story behind him of, like, he's been wronged. He wants his Mania moment. He wants to fix things, yada, yada, yada. If you had someone like Sammy also in the match, that would have at least been a little bit more tense. Or even Uso. Obviously, Uso's doing his stuff with the IC title at this time, but putting people in there that have a narrative that we've been telling on Monday Night Raw, I think that would have made it at least a little bit more interesting, suspenseful, instead of just like, yeah, it's Drew, like he's walking out of here with the win. I think you could have done that. I understand the Sammy stuff, you could still factor him into this somehow, so maybe that's why you don't have him in the chamber, to try and protect him. I don't know. I'm not the booker. I'm not good with building storylines. So maybe that's why. Just be that super hard underdog that, fights his way back. He's got to start fighting his way back and get some wins here. But maybe that's the route, unless it's the Shinsuke story for Mania, which I think obviously Zayn and Shinsuke can put on a great match. Granted, it was 8 years ago at this point with NXT TakeOver Dallas. But there's potential. It's there. It's just, can they do it? I think it'd be great. It's just like, oh, you're kind of just keeping Sammy in this area of floating. Like, get him back up there. That's all. How do you think Elimination Chamber worked in that kind of arena, being a stadium? I don't know. Like, they had so they had 50,200 yada yada in the stadium there. I think the stadium looked great. I think atmosphere-wise, it looked just like a Mania. I liked the stage. It wasn't super elegant, extravagant, but it looked good. You had the typical camper tent type setup over the ring. I'm just thinking, yeah, like you're saying, asking how it worked. I'm thinking of like the viewers who were not close. I guess it's more of an atmosphere thing, kind of like the Rumble. Like the Rumble didn't have the little tent thing because the thing could close, right? Pretty sure. I can't remember now. Wow, that was only a month ago and I can't remember. I don't know, because obviously you have the layer of the fucking chamber there, so that just adds an extra layer of like difficulty to see. Tampa did have a roof, okay. So like at least with the Rumble, like yeah, you have the roof there, but you can see Spec 1 moving around fighting Spec 2, and then the Rumble, obviously a lot of specs, moving around. Obviously it's not that bad, but figure, woo, 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 woo. With the chamber, you get obviously layers. You get a chain link in between. Depending on your seat, you could have a pod in between. The roof is there, so it's a double roof if you're elevated. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's cool that audience is there. So I guess if you are on the far outskirts of the stadium, yeah, it's more of an energy thing at that point. It's kind of like the bar feel. Like, oh, we're going to go to the bar and watch the football game. Like, it's not necessarily about the football game. Like, yeah, you're into it, but it's about the camaraderie and about the people around you. So maybe that's more the attitude you should have if you're going to attend a live event like that and be somewhere on those edges of the stadium. It's just like, I'm here for the experience. Like, they have plenty of monitors around. I know it's kind of weird being like, I paid to be here and I'm watching a TV screen. I get that's weird, but maybe it's just that camaraderie element to it that makes it worth it. So in terms of a viewing experience, I know I would hate it. I think an indoor arena would work better. It's still tough because the chamber just has those elements of vision impairment. So I'm not sure. I think the same thing could be said for a Hell in a Cell. I don't know how easy it is to see through that mesh. At least with a steel cage, with it being the gray, I think that's better. I don't know if they're still doing the red Hell in a Cells. I think the last one we had was Finn and Edge, and that one was red, right? Maybe? I don't know. So I don't know. That's a very, very good question. And I felt bad, once again, just in terms of viewership. Like, you saw how far the ground seats went. Like, at some point, yeah, it's just weird. It's like you're just sitting here like a movie theater, like looking at the screen. But granted, like I said, it's the atmosphere. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know. So I don't know how it worked or how it logistically worked. I would say it's better for a fan in the indoor arena, but I understand from a monetary standpoint and obviously with a foreign market standpoint why this bigger arena makes sense, because you're not here all that often. You can get more people in the door, more people can experience this. And it's not something that reoccurs once every couple of months, even once a year. So, yeah, I get it. I get why they do it. Just, it's that feeling, that energy, I guess we got to focus more on than watching the actual elements of it in a way. Like, real time, not screen viewership. So, but yeah, that's going to wrap up topic 1. So let's jump in on over to topic 2. Let's talk about Madam Web briefly and talk about my thoughts and experiences with Madam Web. So as of recording, I did see it last night. And I thought it was okay. And I think that's kind of what our group thought overall as we were leaving the theater, is that it was fine. I'm going to say it was a bunch more. It was fine. It wasn't anything exciting. It wasn't anything intriguing, really. It was just kind of there. And I'm curious. I'm sure there's things you could tell. Well, there's a lot of things you could be like, it was this, it was this, it was this. I don't think it's one thing you can just lock down and be like, it was a bad narrative. It was a bad casting. It was a bad blah, blah, blah. I think the story they were telling actually was kind of intriguing and was interesting. It was just at some points it felt very disjointed and disconnected and didn't really feel like it was... What am I thinking of? It didn't have the suspense of that 3-act structure of like setup, problem, deal with said problem. Okay? It kind of felt like there was no tenseness in the situation. It just felt like it was happening. And I don't know if that's just there was no connection with the characters super well. I don't know. So for those of you guys who don't know what the hell this movie's about, so Madam Web is about Cassandra Webb. She is a paramedic in New York City, and she, after a triggering experience, starts getting visions of like the past. And she kind of like gets this deja vu effect where she can change things. Like she'll go a little while, something will trigger, go back, and then she would be able to change elements or notice like this is happening again and this is weird. So it opens with that. Well, it doesn't open with that. It opens with her mom and the backstory there. Okay? And sets up our bad guy. But we get our introduction to Cassandra there. Or Cassie, rather. And what the story is, or what the plot is Cassie's mom was hunting a rare spider. This rare spider in the Peruvian forest, something like that. I'm sorry. Has a lot of healing properties, potentially, but it's super rare to find. So she has a crew with her, and while she's adventuring, she's like super pregnant. She finally finds the spider, and the main security guy has also apparently been hunting down this spider, and he just blasts the rest of the security or adventuring group that's with him, and he's like, just give me the spider. Come on, man. Give me the spider. They get in a little tussle. He goes, wow, and shoots her, and then takes the spider. He runs away. Also, apparently there was a legend that these spiders helped create spider people. I know. Hold on. Stick with me. These spider people that have super abilities and whatever. Well, because he shot Cassie's mom, the spider people are like, well, we don't want her to die. She's innocent. So they scuttlebutt in. Well, that doesn't help for audio listeners, but spider in, grab her, super speed them way over into like their secret base, dump her into this pool of water, have her do a water birth. Oh, sorry. have a spider bite her. That's important. Then give water birth. And then they're like, we're going to take care of this baby. Don't worry. And the mom dies. Okay, cool. Great. Then we get, Cassie in New York City doing the whole paramedic thing. So you're like, okay. Okay. Anyways. So she starts having these visions. Great. Meanwhile, bad guy, Ezekiel Sims, I don't know backstory on him. He was the security guy. Pow, shot, her mom. He is also now having visions, or rather has been having visions for a long time, of his death. He sees 3 young ladies, all spider people, like the more typical spider people we know, seemingly kick him off a building or a rooftop, and he dies. And he's like, I'm pissed. I gotta find these girls before they kill me, because I want to live forever, or I just want to be super powerful, whatever. So the spider people we see are not characters that we have been introduced before, because this is a whole Sony's universe, so it's not Marvel Cinematic Universe connected. This is just like, Sony has the rights to Spider-Man characters. Let's keep making movies. So we get one that's a Spider-Woman, at least from my interpretation that I know, because I had an action figure of her when I was growing up, but all black suit, a white spider, and then she's got like this black mask thing with like orange hair. So you have her. You have almost like an Iron Spider type character, where it's the classic blue and red, but then she's got the like Iron Man 4 arm thingies that Peter had for Infinity War. And then the last one, how did she look? Was it white and black? Hold on. Oh boy. You can tell how interesting these spider people were. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. There we go. So yeah, she kind of also had a white and black getup. I don't Jesus Christ! I don't need the trailer right now. I don't remember exactly what her whole shtick was. Okay, anyways, doesn't matter. So yeah, the 3 of them are in his vision. He's like, I gotta hunt them down. And he's got friends, or rather one person who's like a hacker lady for them. And she's like, swell, I can help. So they hijack like a camera system, kind of like facial recognition, all that jazz. And they are able to hunt down these 3 girls. It turns out they're teenagers. And they all have their own backstory. I'm not going to go into it. But Cassie recognizes, or rather learns, how did this come about? Oh, she has visions that these 3 girls are going to get attacked by this guy. So she decides to help them. And eventually, the 4 of them work together to go against this one guy. And the one guy has the spider powers, and he's kind of like anti-Spider-Man. So much that he's anti-Spider-Man, he has a Spider-Man suit. It looks exactly like Peter's. It's all black, but it's like a red webbing. Like Miles, but way jankier. It wasn't that great. As I'm talking about it. So eventually Cassie learns how to use her powers. And when we get to the conclusion where the girls are running away and Cassie's trying to lure them away, like keep them safe, it's just like she already knows what's going to happen. So it's like, oh, stop running. Oh, I'm going to hold this thing and block this firework that's coming at me. Oh, I'm going to move this way. It's like, you can't lose. There's no tenseness because you, from the audience perspective, you know everything that's going to happen. Like, we've seen it where you're like, oh, I get stabbed, and then you went back, and you're fine. No tenseness at all from an audience. It's just literally watching it play out. I don't know what they were trying to do here. I know what they were trying to do. Money. But yeah, it just didn't deliver really anything. Towards the end, you get a little bit of a build. The girls that she does save don't have their powers, so we have no idea how they get their powers, whether it's from the same spider, it's a different spider, anything like that. Madam Web Cassie does get hit in the eyes by a firework and goes blind. It looked like it only hit one eye, but then she's got these weird wide sunglasses on, and also she's in a wheelchair. I don't know what happened to make her paralyzed in a wheelchair, but okie dokie. And she looked really like robotic in that. And I don't mean that in an insult of like, oh, she was in a wheelchair, she just can't do anything. No, like she lost all personality. Like the movie, she was goofing around, you know, she was interesting. And then when she's in the end, she's just like moving around, moves the wheelchair, and like everything when she has those interactions with the girls is like very robotic in tone, character, everything. She's just a wall, and she's just there. And it's like, what happened? What? Like you're like this all-seeing being, and you just gave up personality. Doesn't make any sense to me. So, as I talk about it more, not a great movie. I wouldn't say it's levels of Morbius, where I did enjoy aspects of Morbius, but there was Morbius stuff where I'm like, this is stupid. I didn't really fully hit that here, I would say. It was just the like, where's the payoff? What are we doing here? I guess that was more of what my thought process was coming out of this movie. You get a little bit of backstory with Uncle Ben. You get, you know, Mary and Richard are pregnant with Peter. At the end of the film, Peter's born. So, are we making another one? Is this another, like a Sony-verse Spider-Man? Are we going to even bother to expand off of this? I don't know. It was something. It was something. So, you know, I'd be interested to hear what you guys thought if you gave it a chance. If not, I totally understand. I don't know what Sony's objective is here. Well, once again, I know what the objective is. Money. Hey, people like superhero movies. Obviously, MCU has had a lot of success with that. Granted, we also talked about Burnout. They haven't had a great track record with their movies. I know the Venom movies, very polarizing. Some people like them. Some people hate them. Some people are on the middle ground with me of like, yeah, there's elements of it. And then we had Morbius, which definitely in terms of a financial business success was not great. It was more of a meme movie than anything. And then this, and then we have Craven also coming out. It's like, when do you realize that you got to put some TLC into these things? Like something's not working, you know, you got to pump the brakes, change something up. And I don't know what it is. And like, it's not to say I don't want them to experiment with these characters. It's just, I don't know if it's a lack of knowing the source material. I don't know if it's a lack of the people in charge of the project aren't super into it. Because we've seen over the years, like many a times, different forms of media, whether it's, you know, comic book storylines or video games. I'm going to go off of that just because that's something I know better. Like, if you give something to the right team, they will do a great job with it. Like, look at what Marvel's Spider-Man has done, or rather Insomniac has done for Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation side of things. With 1, with Miles, with now recently 2. Like, they've done a fantastic job, and those games are very highly regarded. It's, I'm curious where the disconnect is. If it's just Sony saying, hey, we have these, just get something out. We don't care. I don't want to say it's that, but they also need to produce, or rather use the right. I don't know. I'm not super law orientated or know the specifics of the rights ownership and what they need to do to keep them or maintain them, but I don't know if it's just a matter of like they need to do it, keep putting out movies so they can maintain the rights to the Spider-Man characters and it doesn't revert back to Marvel/Disney. I don't know what it is. I'm really glad, obviously this is old at this point, I'm really glad they figured out whatever they figured out with Disney and do the shared thing, and the Tom Holland thing is just that, and they're not they're not webbing him into all this stuff or whatever. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know what their thought was. Like, there's even, like, I don't know. Hold on one second. Sorry, Artemis's food. I don't know if they have worked something out with Disney for the Miles character being a shared character too, but you could have just been like, okay, let's take Miles and just make a Sony universe based on Miles. Why try and take these villains and make them the hero? No, just have Miles inserted here and work a story around Miles. Like, have your centric person that can jump around these different movies, make its own storyline, insert whatever character you want to, do it that way. I don't know why he decided to make Venom a goofy guy. Like, he was good. He's been, various iterations of him have been good. Obviously, you get, the symbiote Spider-Man with Peter. Obviously, Peter gets turned really aggressive. Then it goes to Eddie Brock, and it's the more traditional Venom that we know. And then I'm sure there's a lot of other Venoms. But the one I'm going to jump to is, like, Flash Thompson. Like, that's a good guy, technically, or anti-hero Venom with the Agent Venom type stuff. If you wanted to go good guy Venom, why not just go that route? Why take traditional Venom and make him a goofball wimp type thing? And I get it, it's a fun dynamic to play around with, and it's fine doing different stuff with characters too. So I guess my argument or my question doesn't really mean anything, granted, duh. But it's just, I'm curious what the logic was behind these decisions. Why take Madam Web, who I know nothing about, and I'm sure a lot of people know nothing about. I think the only thing I know of Madam Web is the 90s Spider-Man cartoon and seeing her ever so briefly. Taking someone who I presume is evil and then try and make her into a hero here, and she's not even super compelling. Craven at least has a little bit of interesting stuff to him, and same with Morbius. It's just the structure there, not great. I don't know. A lot of questions on Sony's part, and I don't know. Do I go see Craven? Do I give it a third chance? 3 strikes, you're out, or whatever. It's interesting. But yeah, Madam Web was a thing. Sure was a thing. But guys, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. Appreciate you guys hanging out today. Hanging out with me today, giving this a watch, giving it a listen. If you guys ever want to watch live, you can always go to twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You could drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live, so you jump in on the fun and conversation today like Papa Griff did earlier. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your music on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, likes, follows, shares, reviews, subscriptions, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Thanks for hanging out today, guys. Giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.